Hey traders, this is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group with your swing trade video for August 12th, 2016. And today's swing trade alert is on IBB, the biotech ETF. So what I'm looking at, and what I've kind of been looking at by IBB is waiting to get involved in a bullish trade. So a couple things with this. First of all, I just want to talk about support and resistance, and then I'll go into a little bit more detail about why I selected this particular trade. But again, IBB is larger cap biotech. So first of all, the difference between IBB and XBI, there's a little bit of a difference here. IBB is your larger cap biotech. So Amgen, Celgene, Biogen, Regeneron, Gilead, these are the biggest weights in the ETF. So a little bit more stable companies, the smaller cap biotech companies are also in this ETF, but it's not like, XBI is a little bit more risky, in my opinion, because it's got smaller cap names in it. They get the same weight as larger cap names. So I like this ETF right now for a little bit better of a bullish trade. So going back to the chart, I mentioned I wanted to talk about support and resistance. So we've been in this sideways pattern for the better part of this year. We had this big decline in the beginning of the year, and we've kind of been bouncing back and forth. And every time it looks like biotech wants to break out, it's failed. So it did this in March through April, failed here. Declined and then got a bid back in May, and then declined once again. So it's been kind of one step forward, one step back with biotech this year, which is different than a lot of other years where we've had uptrends. So we actually have moved above this range, which I view as a positive. And we broke out here, and now we're retesting. So what was previously resistance will now act as support. So we're right in this zone right now, and we're right at 290. So looking at this in terms of value areas, one thing that concerned me was just about a week ago, back on the 3rd, we got a little bit overbought as we had this nice uptrend, and we got overbought. And I didn't want to really add a trade. I've been watching this chart and watching this breakout above this 285, 287 level. But I didn't want to add, or I didn't want to start a trade when a sector is overbought. So it did get overbought 73, and then we saw a couple of decline days today, especially on Wednesday, where we really sold off. But we really haven't done too much damage in terms of this little uptrend that we're in. We're still above the blue line, the 200-day moving, not 200-day moving average. This is the 20-period exponential moving average on my charts. So we're still above this trend, and we're finding some support right at this level. Also on the weekly chart, I think we can run a little bit further. I think we can run to the bottom of value, which is 311. We're also seeing a moving average crossover here on this chart. So the yellow line is the 5-period exponential that's crossing above the 20. I have these two moving averages to kind of tell me what kind of trend we're in. So we've been in a downtrend since this line crossed over, and we haven't crossed since the yellow line crossed below the blue, and we've never crossed above it. Up until recently, up until mid-July. So I view that as a positive, and I think we can keep running till about 311 until we hit some support. So normally what I would do is when you see this type of price action, is I would put on a long swing trade where I would purchase some calls in this. However, I do think that there is going to be risk in the near future or throughout the year, especially with political concerns and each candidate possibly bringing up healthcare again. So I think it's going to continue to be maybe 2 steps forward and maybe 1 step back. That's why I didn't want to go ahead and buy calls. So what I did was I actually saw, this was about 2 weeks ago, we saw an IBB trade in the biotech ETF where someone sold 290 puts and they bought 280 puts. So they actually sold a put spread in the biotech ETF, and they did this for right around $3.25, $3.50. So it hasn't moved too much since that trade went up about 2 weeks ago. So I established a trade today. There is a little bit of risk in it. So whenever you trade IBB or XBI, it's always a little bit of a risky situation. But particularly in this situation, because I am selling a put spread, and the worst that could happen here is that worst case scenario is that the maximum loss would be 650 if it goes all the way through the 290 strike, and the price goes through the 290 strike and down to the 280. So that's what you have to worry about. And if the price does really get firmly into that in between those strikes, I will probably do something to manage that trade. But what you're doing is, by selling the 290 put and buying the 280 put in September, you're collecting $3.50. So you're taking advantage of a sector that does have a decent amount of implied volatility that you can collect, which you can't really do that right now in SPYs and Qs, just because the VIX is so low right now. You could still do this type of trade in IBB though. The risk is, again, that IBB does fall. So I always want to talk about what's the worst thing that can happen in a trade, and then we could talk about the good things. So you could collect. Why I like this trade is, if you do continue to have this situation where you have 2 steps forward and 1 step back in biotech, and biotech basically stays here for the next month, you can go ahead and collect $3.50. If it goes higher, great. We'll realize the profits faster. If it stays exactly here in this access support, then we'll go ahead and collect the $3.50. So there you go. So there's today's trade in IBB, the biotech ETA. Excuse me, I can't speak. The IBB biotech ETF. You guys have a great weekend, and thanks for watching the video.